Coming up on this edition of Inside Bellingham, smoke detectors may not be the most romantic tool in our homes, but every year these important safety devices help save thousands of lives. Firefighter and fire safety expert Brian Flannelly gives us the lowdown on these valuable lifesavers. Bellingham is rich with history, and we're going to take a quick tour of a few Victorian-aged artifacts downtown you may not even know about. And Kim Spence is going to introduce us to golf just down the road from here at the beautiful Lake Padden Golf Course, where you don't need to be a member to have a lot of fun. All this and quite a bit more on Inside Bellingham. Right behind me there is Lake Padden, once a water supply for the city, but now it's the centerpiece of Lake Padden Park, a community recreational playground since 1972. In front of me are tennis courts, and just a little bit down the lake are playgrounds, picnic shelters, a swimming beach, and softball fields. Connecting everything around the lake is a beautiful 2.5-mile woodland trail. People come here to play, fish, canoe, hike, and in the warm days ahead, to swim. Not this week, though. Back in the 1960s, when this area was part of the city's water system, the average U.S. citizen had never heard of a smoke alarm. But by the year 2000, an estimated 94% of American homes, apartments, nursing homes, and dormitories were equipped with alarms. And the price of fire safety has dropped considerably. In the 1970s, the cost of protecting an average 3-bedroom home with professionally installed smoke alarms was over $1,000. Today, the cost of owner-installed alarms in that same house has come down to about $50. Bellingham firefighter Brian Flannelly has some practical information for all of us about smoke alarms in our homes.
Since their introduction 30 years ago, smoke detectors have been credited with reducing the number of annual fire fatalities by 50%. That's a pretty staggering number. You might wonder how they go about doing that. Well, smoke detectors watch out for you while you're sleeping, when you're really at the most vulnerable. Most fire fatalities occur as a direct result of smoke inhalation rather than the fire itself. Anything that can give you early warning of smoke is going to double your chances of survival. Well, you've probably heard this message about smoke detectors and batteries so often it's actually just faded into the background. What we'd like to do today is go to a real house and talk to a real person about real problems with smoke detectors. Come on this way.
Hi, Brian.
Oh, hi. I understand you're having a problem with smoke detectors today.
Yeah, I am. It seems to be going off every time I make toast. Is there anything I can do to avoid that?
Okay, well, let's go have a look at it.
Okay. Here's the toaster.
Okay, so every time you put toast in, then smoke goes up to the ceiling and the alarm goes off. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. That's what we call a nuisance alarm. And after a while, that's going to get to be so annoying that you either feel like popping the battery out of the smoke detector or just removing it completely. And that's the last thing in the world what we want to have happen. You may not be aware of it, but you're not actually required to have a smoke detector in your kitchen, precisely for that reason. So what we recommend is that you actually have a smoke detector nearby, but not actually in the cooking area itself.
Okay.
Now, of course, the next thing that comes to mind is, well, what happens if I have a fire in the kitchen itself? Well, what we figure on that one is that if you have a cooking fire, chances are you're right there doing the cooking. So you're going to be aware of it more before anybody else will. Or if you have a pot on the stove or something like that, you're already out of the house anyway. So we're not quite so concerned about those. As long as you have a smoke detector nearby and it's functioning, that meets all the requirements.
Now, how many smoke detectors does one need? and where should they be best located?
Okay. The codes are actually pretty clear cut on that one. You have to have one smoke detector in each sleeping quarters, so everybody's bedroom has to have one, and one out in the hallway outside, and beyond that, one smoke detector per level.
How often does one need to change the smoke detector batteries?
Okay. What we're recommending for standard battery-operated smoke detectors, and also ones that operate off a household current, is that the batteries be changed once a year. And pick a date that works for you. Some people use an anniversary, some people use birthdays, but one way or the other, make sure you change out that battery once a year.
Do smoke detectors ever wear out?
All smoke detectors, regardless of whether it's a household current or battery type, have a shelf life of 10 years. Then they have to be replaced.
How do you dispose of them?
They can go into the regular garbage. It's all right.
Now, I've heard stories of children actually sleeping through fire detector alarms. Is that true?
It's one of the scariest things we've learned about in recent years. Let's go upstairs. Let's see where the sleeping quarters are. We'll talk about it up there.
Okay.
Okay, that smoke detector is exactly where you want it to be, right here in the sleeping quarters. I also noticed on the way in you have one outside in the hallway. So perfect, you are covered. The only problem with the kid's bedroom is that the Consumer Product Safety Commission has said children under the age of 16 will not reliably be woken up by a smoke detector. The reason for that is that kids have got a fairly long and a fairly deep sleep cycle. So while an adult is going to be woken up by the blast of one of those things, we can't guarantee that's going to happen with a child. So as a parent, it's your responsibility when the smoke detector goes off, go right to your kid's room, wake them up, make sure that they get out at the same time as you do.
That's great information, Brian. Is there anything else you can suggest for me?
Everything looks wonderful here. It looks perfect. I wish everyone did it as well as you guys do. There are two new products that I should mention. First, smoke detectors are now available with a 10-year lithium battery. Instead of replacing the battery every year, you replace the entire unit after 10 years. Second, there's some smoke detectors now available with a built-in voice recorder. This allows parents to give special instructions to their children in the event of a fire. So in summary, make sure you have the right number of smoke detectors in your house. Make sure that they're placed properly. Make sure they actually work. Change out the batteries at regular intervals. Push the test button. Make sure that they actually function. Our fire marshal has said the best chance you have of ensuring your own survival is early recognition and a quick exit. Help us to help you. Make sure you have a working smoke detector.
If you'd like more information about home fire protection in general, check out the U.S. Fire Administration and Federal Emergency Management website at www.usfa.fema.gov or the Bellingham Fire Department website at www.cob.org/fire. On every Inside Bellingham, we take a question that we've received from our viewers and pose it to the person in the city who can best answer it. The question for this month is, why are teenage driving regulations different than adult regulations? Police Chief Randy Carroll has the answer.
National statistics or state statistics indicate to us in a 5-year period from 1993 to 1998 that 753 of our youth died in motor vehicle collisions. Most of that is due to inexperience in operating a motor vehicle and high rates of speed. And most recently, we have seen the results of high speed and inexperience resulting in deaths of our youth here in Whatcom County and in Bellingham. I encourage every parent, every guardian, every adult responsible for a youthful driver to take a look at the statute governing intermediate driver's licenses. And basically what this statute is it's an intermediate driver's license for those under the age of 18. For the first 6 months of a driver's license, the driver under 18 cannot have passengers under 20 years of age except immediate family members. There are restrictions on the hours that the driver can operate a motor vehicle under the age of 18 and an intermediate driver, and that is no driving between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or a licensed driver at least 25 years of age. After 6 months, and still under the age of 18, no more than 3 passengers under age 20 except immediate family members. Still no driving between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or a licensed driver at least 25 years of age. Now, there are some exceptions to the provision, but that has to do with experience. There are also no restrictions if the intermediate driver is operating a motor vehicle for agricultural purposes. As parents, guardians, and adult supervisors of our youth who drive in our community, it is incumbent upon us to make sure that our youth follow the guidelines set forth in the Intermediate Driver's License Statute. For the youth of our community, it's important for you to take responsibility for your driving, drive within the law, and know that speed kills.
If you have a question about city services or policies, you can send that question to us in an email at btv10@cob.org. A lot of the work of the Public Works Department is focused on making it safe and convenient for people to get around town. Now, this might mean programming a traffic signal, installing a roundabout, or just filling a pothole. By sponsoring events like Bike to Work and School Day on May 19th, the city also supports individuals who want to do their part to reduce pollution and congestion. Encouraging carpooling, biking, walking benefits the transportation system and also contributes to a cleaner, healthier community.
Bike to Work Day is a national event that's been going on for 50 years in the U.S. and it's pretty new here in Whatcom County. It's a way to encourage people to try bicycle commuting as a way to get to work or school. The city has become very active with the Bike Ped Advisory Committee and also just the city's support with having banners and having publicity and everything. So it's been kind of a hand-in-hand collaboration, but it did start with some pretty small group of people.
Bike to Work and School Day is a wonderful community event that encourages and celebrates a fun, healthy, and environmentally sound way to get to school and work. Last year, over 3,000 people participated. That included school children and adults. It's a one-day event that has a lasting impact. So about 10% of our employees commute to work by bike on a regular basis. As part of the fun of the day, we have for the last 3 years had a competition with the Port of Bellingham and Whatcom County to see who can get the most employees biking to work. And I'm proud to say that the City of Bellingham has won 3 years in a row, which has been great. And another fun part of the celebration is we have a lunchtime event where we have tricycle relay races and the slowest bike race out in front of City Hall. It's a very hilarious event, great for spectators, and last year in the tricycle relay race, Sanitary Service Company took off with first prize, although I think the most fun was had by the spectators watching adults on little trikes with their bodies folded up and knees up to ears, that sort of thing.
Sanitary Service is part of the Bike to Work and School Day program, and we want people to know that it's not just one day in May. It's not even Bike to Work and School month, the whole month of May, but we are going to be sponsoring family bike rides throughout the riding season. Most of these will be based in neighborhoods. We'll pick a different neighborhood each month, and we'll sponsor a family ride for moms and dads and kids that will explore that neighborhood, its parks and greenways trails. A schedule for these family bike rides, as well as many other riding events that will be scheduled throughout the spring and summer, can be found on a link to the city's webpage, www.cob.org. And you can also do a Google search for bicycling in Bellingham, and you'll come up with all kinds of different events.
Biking is pretty much for everyone now. I mean, you can have a physical limitation. There's plenty of ways that bikes can be outfitted for whatever case you may have. There is going to be an event that's going to be for adapted bicycles for people with physical limitations, so you can check out the website and find out when that's going to be too.
Adaptive bikes are cycles that allow people with disabling conditions to ride a bike. So for instance, some of the bikes that we'll have at this event are three-wheeler bikes that are designed for people who may have some mobility issues. There will be some hand cycles there, and that can help support anybody who has limited movement of their legs or no movement of their legs. And there's also going to be tandem bikes, and those are bikes that are designed for anyone who needs a guide, for instance, somebody who's visually impaired or blind. There are several benefits to bicycling to work and riding bikes to school. It's a great form of exercise, keeps people healthy, it reduces congestion on our roadways, and helps to maintain our quality of life. Also, I would encourage you to take a look at our website. We have information about bicycle commuting, safe bike tips, as well as information on the city's bicycle map.
Did you know that the city of Bellingham owns a golf course and that it's financially self-sufficient? It's one of the best public courses in the region. And it also provides important wildlife habitat. The course is a registered member of the Audubon Society's cooperative sanctuary system. And it also has its very own resident coyote, Wiley. Kim Spence gets into the swing of things with Lake Padden golf director and PGA pro, Mel Fish.
We want to think of this putting stroke as like a pendulum. So the only thing that's moving is just the arms and the shoulders in a comfortable position that strikes the ball so it goes towards the hole. Okay, so let's see what you can do. Good. Now you hit it a little too hard.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yes,
the
I can
backswing
see.
was a little too long, so we just
Okay.
want to shorten it. We want to make
Okay.
those equal. This one's going in. There it is.
Oh, yay! Nice.
And that's where you give it the old Tiger Woods fist pump.
What do you think is unique about this golf course?
They don't make them this way anymore. Every fairway is tree lined, so you don't see other people, and we have variety in the golf holes. Dogleg left, dogleg right, short par 4, long par 4. Our par 3s are as tough as any place anywhere, and it plays to the average player and it plays to the very, very good player.
Well, it sounds like a really nice golf course. What's it like for someone who's a beginner like me?
Price-wise, it doesn't get any better. And we built the golf course so you can have the tees for the beginners and you can have the tees for the good players. And we offer the lesson program for beginners to advanced players. So anybody that wants to play the game can come on out and we'll get them started. This course, when it was first built, used to be really wet, really soft. And 12 years ago, we started a comprehensive top dressing program where we apply an inch of sand a year. Over that time, we've raised the golf course anywhere from 8 to 12 inches. So we've become one of the driest golf courses you'll find anywhere.
It's absolutely beautiful here. It's
spectacular.
It is really a park-like setting.
Like I told you, this is my office. It doesn't get any better than this.
Tell me about Gary Bergstrom, our park champion.
He is here every day. He'll play in the morning, and he'll come back and hit more range balls, or he'll actually go out and pick range balls for me on the driving range. So he loves the game, and he's just a golfaholic.
Gary, I understand that you volunteer here. What do you do?
Most of the time I spend out here on this driving range, getting erratic balls that have been hit in the woods, and down here in where it's kind of hard for the picker out there to pick them up. So it's fun. Doesn't pay very well, but it's a lot of fun. And it's good for my golf game.
How does this compare to other courses you've played?
Anybody will tell you around here that this is the best place to play as far as the price and stuff, you know. And it's become like the driest golf course around here now, too. Every hole's different. I can come out here every day, and it's like a new experience. It's hard to beat this place.
At the Lake Padden Golf Course, anyone can enjoy a round of golf along the tree-lined fairways, hit a bucket of balls at the driving range, and take lessons from the pro, all at reasonable rates. This great public asset offers challenges to golfers and would-be golfers of all levels. Even if you've never picked up a club, come see what the Lake Padden Golf Course has to offer you.
As you know, Bellingham is filled with history. Many carefully preserved historic buildings downtown house modern offices and homes. Planning and Community Development's Katie Franks tells us about the city's efforts to recognize and protect some of Bellingham's historic landmarks.
Behind me is the Whatcom Museum of History and Art. Built in 1892 as the City Hall for the town of New Whatcom, this building is a magnificent example of Victorian-era architecture. Ironically, by 1939, this building was to be replaced with a newer, more modern building, the current City Hall, and was slated for the wrecking ball. A citizen vote enabled the city to save the building, which has since become a symbol for the community. If you're curious to learn more about the Victorian era in architecture, you've come to the right place. The current exhibit at the museum is all about Victorian buildings in our community. Tony Nagel of the Whatcom Museum tells us about the current exhibit on Victorian architecture.
The Victorian era in Bellingham, around 1880s through early 1900s, was a time of growth and development for this area. The buildings were of a variety of different sizes, from small folk Victorians with pointed gabled roofs and fish scale shingles to larger commercial structures with egg and dart patterns and beautiful details on the eaves, Italianate, High Victorians, Queen Anne's. There's a variety of different styles of that time period that you can find throughout every neighborhood in the city of Bellingham. By the 1950s, Victorian architecture in Bellingham was looked pretty much down upon, and buildings were torn down to make way for new modern facilities. A good example of this is Elmheim, or the Roth Mansion that towered above on the corner of Elm and Monroe. A beautiful structure built for Charles and Lottie Roth. It was just a beautiful Victorian home that many people remember fondly, and was torn down. And it wasn't until maybe 20, 30 years later that apartment buildings were constructed on that site. The Gamwell House was constructed in early 1890s, and it is a beautiful example of a Victorian home built with wonderful amenities on the interior as well as the exterior. The current owners have worked to restore this home for the last 30 years. It's a gem for the community on the National Register of Historic Places, and we will be conducting a house tour there on April 29th that we invite you to come. It's quite wonderful.
Victorian era buildings can be difficult to maintain, and owners often go to great personal expense to preserve them. Similarly, commercial buildings from the Victorian era, like this one, the Oaken Block, can be very costly to preserve and often require the assistance of public agencies. Built in 1890 as a hotel, office, and retail space, the Oaken Block was gutted by fire in the 1980s. Luckily, the building caught the eye of local redeveloper Robert Hall, owner of Daylight Properties, who who purchased it with plans to rehabilitate. However, the project proved to be too costly to be feasible, and Hall sold the building to the Bellingham Housing Authority. In 2002, with critical funding provided from the city's Planning and Community Development Department, the Housing Authority completed the project and created 20 units of affordable housing while preserving the building's historic character. Another good example of how the city collaborates to preserve historic buildings is the revitalization planning for the Old Town District. Since the 1970s, the city has worked with concerned citizens and community leaders who have expressed great interest in preserving, enhancing, and highlighting the few remaining historic icons in Old Town. Some of the buildings and features identified in the recent planning process include the 1856 Picket House, the 1858 Territorial Courthouse, which was actually built as a warehouse for the Fraser River Gold Rush and is now the oldest brick building in the state, the 1927 Great Northern Train Station, and the 1928 Washington Egg and Poultry Cooperative, in addition to many others. As part of the Old Town planning work, the Planning and Community Development staff will be recommending regulations to better showcase and preserve these buildings.
If you'd like more information about historic preservation in Bellingham, head to the Planning and Community Development website at www.cob.org/PCD. And if you would like to find out more about the Victorian Architecture exhibit, visit the Watkin Museum website at www.watkinmuseum.org. A regular feature here on Inside Bellingham is our On-the-Job segment with stories about city employees. This month, we'd like to introduce to you Municipal Court Commissioner Pete Smiley with the city's judicial side of government. We'll start out with the question, what is a court commissioner?
All right.
Well, a court commissioner is an appointed judicial officer, and a commissioner is appointed by the judge to hear cases just like a judge, and I work here in municipal court. Please raise your right hand. Probably the most rewarding thing for me is making a difference, and I know that sounds a little bit corny, but as an attorney you can argue that a certain outcome is appropriate under the law and under the facts and under a sense of justice, but as a judicial officer, you're the one who makes that decision, and hopefully you make a decision that's going to make the world a better place. And we make decisions in our court that affect people every single day, whether it's a relatively minor parking ticket or a more serious criminal offense. We know that the decisions we make have real-world implications and are affecting real people.
Okay, just don't drive until you get your license back, otherwise this gets really expensive really quickly. I'm going to follow the recommendation here. It's a standard penalty for a first offense, and seems quite reasonable under the circumstances. 90 days, all of which is suspended. $1,000 fine, 700 of which is suspended, results in a $300 fine. There was a warrant that had to issue for your arrest. You didn't appear back in June of '05. You're also to do 8 hours of community service, and you need to do that in the next 60 days.
The jail looks differently and it feels different because it's a much smaller room, and everyone there is locked up and they may or may not get out of jail based on the decisions we make over there.
I was pretty upfront with you last time in January. I told you if you messed up, you were going to do 120 days, and that's what you're going to do.
I was a prosecutor for 5 years, and I worked my way up the ladder like many prosecutors. I started out in district court, which does very much the same kind of cases that we do in our municipal court. I was there for a year. I spent 2 years in juvenile court, and then I spent 2 years in superior court prosecuting felonies.
First continuance. Any objection from the city?
What I get out of being a court commissioner is a real sense of helping to improve the community, and it's exciting for me to be able to make the tough decisions in tough cases where you have conflicting information, and I get to apply what I've learned as a human being and as an attorney to the case and hopefully make the right decision that will improve the community in each case, to be fair to both sides, to listen to both sides, and hopefully come to the right result.
Did you know that you can save time and hassle by paying your city utility bill with AutoPay? It's a program that provides city utility customers the option of paying their bills through an automatic withdrawal from their checking or savings accounts on the due date. There is no charge for this service. For information about how to sign up, visit the City Finance Department website at www.cob.org/finance. Well, that's our show for April. This edition of Inside Bellingham will air several times each week throughout the month. Find out when by checking the BTV 10 schedule right on our website. Additionally, if you have feedback or ideas, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach us through our website or directly via email. Spring is finally here, so come on out and enjoy our community. Our parks are a great way to discover the wealth of natural beauty that makes Bellingham such a special place to live. I'm Doug Waldo. For all of us here at the City of Bellingham, thanks for watching.